Welcome everyone back to our fourth video on this series, What Can We Learn From? Welcome everybody back. I hope everybody had a great Easter weekend. And I know it was a little different for most of us here in Carmen that they usually are having lectureship that weekend. So it felt a little strange to have Easter weekend without lectureship. But we managed, and I hope that you spent some time, at least still in God's Word and listening to different lessons. And so we're glad that we have those avenues to learn different things at this time, as we couldn't have lectureship and we can't currently meet right now. So I hope that everybody had a great weekend. So this is, like I said, the fourth video on this series. And so what we're going to look at today is we're going to look at a little bit about the life of Solomon and pick out just, a characteristic that he really showed, that he's very well known for, that we can learn a lot from. So just a brief background on Solomon. He was the third king of Israel after Saul and David. He was David's son. And Solomon wrote a bit of the Old Testament. He wrote the Song of Solomon, Ecclesiastes, and a lot of Proverbs he wrote as well. And so we have a good amount of writing from Solomon in God's Word. And Solomon was said that he was greater in riches than all the other kings of the earth. As we'll see in our scriptures here, that God really blessed Solomon, and Solomon had incredible wealth. Like wealth beyond really what we can imagine, or even people of today's world could imagine. Just immense wealth. And God really blessed him. And under Solomon was the time when the temple was constructed. Solomon oversaw this, and that was part of the wealth at that time, that the temple was built. It took a lot of time and a lot of wealth, a lot of resources to build the temple. And so that was done during Solomon's time. And so the one thing that I really want to focus on with Solomon in this video is how Solomon showed wisdom. Now Solomon, when we think of qualities of him, wisdom is maybe the first thing we think of. And we think of the story of God asking him what he wanted. And so we're going to look at that and see how Solomon interacts with God, what he asked for, and why he asked for it. So in 1 Kings chapter 3 is where we see how God viewed Solomon, how Solomon viewed God, and the relationship that they had. So 1 Kings chapter 3, verses 3 through 5 says, "Now Solomon loved the Lord, walking in the statutes of his father David, except he sacrificed and burnt incense on the high places. The king went to Gibeon to sacrifice there, for that was the great high place. Solomon offered 1,000 burnt offerings on that altar. In Gibeon, the Lord appeared to Solomon in a dream at night, and God said, 'Ask what you wish me to give you.'" So here we have God appearing to Solomon in a dream, asking Solomon, you can wish anything you want. Just ask me for anything, and I will give you anything. Ask what you wish me to give you. Now that is a really remarkable thing from God. That God is willing to give Solomon anything. He saw that Solomon very much loved the Lord, was serving the Lord, and God wanted to bless him and see what he needed. And so Solomon's response is really what we want to look at here. And so verses 6 through 9, Solomon responds to God and gives him his request. He says, "Then Solomon said, 'You have shown great loving kindness to your servant David, my father, according as he walked before you in truth and righteousness and uprightness of heart toward you. And you have reserved for him this great loving kindness, that you have given him a son to sit on his throne, as it is this day. Now, O Lord my God, you have made your servant king in place of my father David. Yet I am but a little child. I do not know how to go out or come in. Your servant is in the midst of your people which you have chosen, a great people who are too many to be numbered or counted. So give me your servant an understanding heart to judge your people, to discern between good and evil. For who is able to judge this great people of yours? So Solomon comes to God, and his request to God is for understanding. Solomon recognizes that he says, I am but a little child. I don't know how to go out or come in. Solomon doesn't really know how to, how to be a king, how to govern these people, how to judge these people. He doesn't really know how to do it. And so he asked God for understanding, for an understanding heart. And that's really quite remarkable. Out of anything Solomon could have asked for, and we think if God asked us or told us, ask for anything you want, what are the things that we go through our minds right away? And we have lots of things that we might want to ask God for. But Solomon understood that God blessed his father David, and that Solomon now was, as king he was in charge of these people. And Solomon knew that he needed then to have an understanding heart to lead these people. And so God responds to Solomon in this, in verses 11 through 14. It says, God said to him, because you have asked this thing and have not asked for yourself long life, nor have you asked for riches for yourself, nor have you asked for the life of your enemies, but have asked for yourself discernment to understand justice. Behold, I have done according to your words. Behold, I have given you a wise and discerning heart, so that there has been no one like you before you, nor shall one like you arise after you. I have also given you what you have not asked, both riches and honor, so that there will not be any among the kings like you all of your days. If you walk in my ways, keeping my statutes and commandments, as your father David walked, then I will prolong your days. God responds to Solomon's request. And he says, you didn't ask for riches. You didn't ask for the life of your enemies. You didn't ask for long life. Because you were wise in what you asked for, because you asked for understanding, not only did God give him that understanding, but he blessed him immensely in other things. He gave him both riches and honor. He gave him a long life. And so God, pleased in what Solomon asked for, blessed Solomon beyond much more than what was Solomon's request to God. So Solomon, really showed wisdom in his request, and God recognized that and blessed Solomon, beyond what Solomon asked. So when we look at this story of Solomon and God, we can ask ourselves, what are we asking God for? And why are we asking God for these things? Right now, we're asking God to keep us safe, to keep us healthy, to keep the people we know healthy. And that's a great request. But we need to be careful in why we're asking for those things. Are we asking to be healthy just because we're afraid to get sick? Are we asking for health, and the end of this virus so that we can watch sports again? Right? Or meet together again? What are our motivations behind what we ask God for? We need to make sure that our motivations are not just our own selfish desires, but that going forward, the things we ask for can be used to serve God, right? Solomon knew that he needed wisdom to serve God. And so that's what he asked for. He knew he needed understanding to do the job that he had. And so for us, when we ask God for things, that it is important that we are looking ahead and that we're looking for how we can serve God and the things we're asking for, how God can be served through it. So we ask for health and safety right now so that we can continue to study, and so that when we do get back together, that we can encourage and support each other, that as we go back out into the world, that we can be a light to the world, and that we can spread the gospel. So not just so that we don't get sick, but we're asking for health so that the gospel can be spread through us, that we can be an instrument of God. And so Solomon knew and understood that he was inadequate by himself for this job. He knew that he needed God's help. And we're no different. We're not running kingdoms, but we still are inadequate in the things that we do, and we need God's help. So as we look at Solomon's life and the wise choices that Solomon made, we need to use him as an example of this, of how we go to God in our requests. That we are wise in our request to God, that we are doing it not for our own selfish reasons, but that we need God, that we are inadequate in the things that we do by ourselves, that we need God's help going forward, and that we need God to help us spread the gospel. That's our lesson for today on Solomon showing wisdom. I hope you were able to get something out of that lesson. I encourage you to continue to watch these videos as they come, and hope that they can be an encouragement to you. As we look forward, I hope that we are going to God and asking for health and safety at this time, we're in a very unusual situation right now. And so I pray that we will all be healthy and safe, and that we will be spending our time wisely into God's word, and that as we get back together, that we can be wiser, and that we can really encourage each other again. So thank you for watching the video, and God bless.